It is approaching 7:30, so we're going to go back to our top story now. Police have defended a decision to pay a convicted child rapist nearly £10,000 to help catch a Newcastle sex gang, saying dangerous men would not be behind bars without his help.
Yes, the Northumbrian Chief Constable says very clearly 18 dangerous people would not be in prison without that informant's help. But charities have described the decision as appalling and say it raises serious questions about the force's approach.
Well, we're joined now by Northumbria Police Chief Constable Steve Ashman in Wallsend. Good morning to you, Police Constable. We appreciate you joining us, Chief Constable, and waiting to speak to us this morning. It has caused a lot of controversy, this tactic that you've employed to convict these people. Do you stand by the idea of paying £10,000 to a convicted child rapist?
I do, but that's not a decision that we've reached lightly. It's not something that I haven't mulled over for considerable periods of time in my own head. But you have to look at the outcome that we have achieved, and sitting today, not just in relation to these trials where we've secured 18 convictions, but thus far in Operation Sanctuary we've secured 93 convictions and over 300 years of imprisonment. That's without these individuals who have yet to be sentenced. So I've got to be satisfied it was the right thing to do. I think some of the commentary by some individuals, principally the NSPCC, over the last 24 hours has not been helpful, if I'm being frank with you. They've made reference to us planting a convicted child rapist amongst vulnerable women and girls. That simply did not happen. There's no evidence that it happened. They're the words of the judge, and the judge's ruling on this is very, very clear. So not only did we not task this informant to go and be part of, or indeed present, or anywhere near these sex parties, quite the contrary, we specifically told him not to. Not only did we not task him to do it, there's no evidence that he actually did do it, and they're the words of the judge, so we need to rule that out completely. OK,
but you did still pay him £10,000 for information and for his help. And interestingly, you talked about the judge there, Penny Morland. She dismissed his evidence as inherently unreliable, lacking in credibility and clearly dishonest.
Yes.
Well, this is...
Yes, she did.
So you're paying £10,000 to a convicted child rapist who then has been dismissed by the judge herself, and yet you are standing by what you've done.
Oh, absolutely, but it's important that you look at the judge's comments in relation to what she was assessing. And she was assessing the very lurid and quite outrageous claims that XY made in relation to the conduct of Northumbria Police, which incidentally was independently investigated by the IPCC, and we were found to have committed no criminal act, no misconduct, not even a single recommendation to the force has been forthcoming in relation to our management of XY as an individual informant. So the fact that he has behaved in such a dishonest and lacking in credibility manner in front of the judge doesn't detract from the fact that over time he has provided us with factual information. The sort of stuff we're talking about is the name of a person who might be involved, the location where a party might take place, who might be supplying drugs, the cars that they are driving. That's either factually correct or it's factually wrong. And that's a jump-off point for the start of an investigation. He didn't provide any evidence at all in these trials. The evidence that he gave to the judge was in relation to the allegations he made against Northumbria Police that were dismissed out of hand. So that doesn't mean that at some point in the past when he managed them, he didn't give us very valuable information that we couldn't get elsewhere. That's what we've paid him for.
So you've addressed those points about the evidence and cleared that up for us, and also what the NSPCC have been saying about, exposing youngsters to more risk. One other point that's been made by other children's charities and groups that are concerned is that how would the victim of this convicted child rapist feel? There is a responsibility there, isn't it, to be seen to be giving money to someone who's already caused harm. What would you say to that?
I would say that I absolutely understand that, and I'm not going to stand here and say that this is an easy decision and one that I can make everybody accept my perspective on this. There are two sides to this entirely. I suppose that a lot depends on how you pose that question, and perhaps another way of posing it would be to go to an individual victim and to say, if the police were able to prevent you from ever becoming a victim and going through that horrible ordeal that you've endured, if they were able to stop that from happening by paying somebody else money, do you think that that would be the right thing to do? And that's a question I've had to answer myself, I've had to ask myself repeatedly, and most importantly, most significantly, the officers dealing with this matter at the front line have had to question themselves constantly as to whether this is the right thing to do morally. And standing here today, I'm content that it was, but I absolutely understand that some people will not agree with that.
OK. Northumbria Police Chief Constable Steve Ashman, thank you for joining us this morning from Wallsend.
Because for years people are saying we need to do more, we need to do more, we need to do more, and then suddenly they have, it's worked, and they're facing questions about...
But it divides opinion. Philip saying on Facebook the police paying a child rapist is an absolute disgrace, but Sandra saying